Welcome to the first review on General Economics, Chapter 1. The Chapter 1 deals with Introduction to Microeconomics, so under which we'll be studying what is economics about, the definitions and scope of economics, nature of economics, the different methods of studying economics, the central economic problems of different nations, the production possibility curve, and how different economies solve their central economic problems. Now, going to question number 1. Which of the following is a normative statement in economics? Option A: more spending by the government reduces poverty. Higher taxes, option B, higher taxes lead to less desire to work. Option C, the UK economy is growing fast relative to other European Union members. Option D, the government should concentrate on reducing unemployment. A normative statement would always suggest measures for improvement. It would use words like should or what ought to be. So options A, B, and C give this for the sentences are of a positive type. They share information as they are. But option D gives us how it should be. So the right answer is option D. Question number 2. Which of the following is not likely to be true in a command economy? A command economy, we mean it's a socialistic setup. So we have option A: businesses may pursue social objectives. Option B: the profits of a business belong to the government. Resources are allocated by government directives. Option D: market forces determine what is produced and who receives the products. So in a command economy, the basic questions of what to produce, how to produce, and for whom to produce is actually determined by the government. But it does not follow the principle of market forces in determining these basic questions. So option D is the right answer because the market forces being used for decision making is an important feature of a capitalistic economy and not a command economy. Question 3. A mixed economy. Option A allocates resources via supply but not demand. Option B allocates resources via demand but not supply. Option C allocates resources via supply and demand. Option D allocates resources via market forces and government intervention. A mixed economy is a combination of a socialistic economy and a capitalistic economy. So in a socialistic economy, the government intervenes in allocation of resources, whereas in a capitalistic economy, the market forces intervene in the process of resource allocation. Since mixed economy is a combination of both, you will notice that resources are allocated through the market forces of demand and supply as well as through government intervention. So the right answer is option D. Allocates resources via market forces and government intervention. Question number 4. The free market involves option A: the free provision of products. Option B: the subsidizing of products by the government. Option C: market forces of supply and demand. Option D: all trade via barter. So market forces being used to determine the allocation of resources is a key feature of market economy. So the right answer is option C. So free provision of products, it is a feature of a socialistic economy. Subsidized products is also a feature of socialistic economy. And barter system is not part of a market economy. So option C is the right answer. Market forces of supply and demand. The fifth question: if an economy moves from producing 10 units of A and 4 units of B to producing 7 units of A and 5 units of B, the opportunity cost of the fifth unit of B is. Opportunity cost means the the loss of the second best alternative in order to get the first best alternative. Or in other words, initially 10 units of A is consumed and only 4 units of B is consumed. But in order to increase the consumption of B from 4 units to 5 units, 3 units of A is given away. So, the opportunity cost of getting the fifth unit of B is 3 units of A. In other words, 3 units of A are given out in order to get one additional or the fifth unit of B. So the answer is option C, 3 A's. Sixth question: microeconomics is not concerned with the behavior of option A, aggregate demand, option B, consumers, option C, firms, option D, industries. Microeconomics is micro in nature and it studies the behavior of individual firm, industry and consumers. Whereas option A, aggregate demand, is a macroeconomic phenomenon. Therefore, the right answer is option A, because aggregate demand is not covered under microeconomics. The seventh question: economics is option A, the study of the markets for stocks and bonds. Option B, the study of choice under conditions of scarcity. Option C, exclusively the study of business firms. D, fundamentally the same as sociology. So under the scope of economics, we have seen that economics is the study of how scarce resources are used to maximize satisfaction or utility. Therefore, we have to make choice with regard to which wants are to be satisfied first. Therefore, option B, the study of choice under conditions of scarcity, is the right answer. Question 8. Microeconomics deals with which of the following? Option A, the total output of an economy. B, the measurement of a nation's inflation rate. C, how producers and consumers interact in individual markets. How tax policies influence economic growth. As discussed earlier, microeconomics is a study of micro level concepts related to individual consumers, firms and industries. So you'll notice that option A, B and D, namely total output of an economy, inflation for the nation and tax policies, are macroeconomic in nature, whereas only option C deals with producers and consumers at individual market level. Therefore, the right answer is option C. Question 9. The consumer price index increased by 4.2% in the first quarter of this year. What type of statement is this? A. Normative, B. Negative, C. Positive, D. Subjective. So you would find that the statement is just sharing a fact. It is sharing what is, and it is not giving suggestive measures what ought to be. Therefore, it is a positive statement and it is option C. The 10th question. Who has given scarcity definition of economics? A. Adam Smith, B. Marshall, C. Robbins, D. Robertson. So the scarcity definition was given by Robbins. He said that economics is the study of how scarce resources are allocated between alternate uses of uh, resources. So Adam Smith has given the wealth definition, Marshall has given the welfare definition. So the right answer is option C, Robbins. The 11th question. An inquiry into the nature and causes of wealth of nations is the book of Economist. A. Adam Smith, B. Marshall, C. Robbins, D. None of the above. So the right answer would be Adam Smith, because he is the one who gave the wealth definition of economics. And an inquiry into nature and causes of wealth of nations was given by Adam Smith. Question number 12. Economics is a science. The basis of this statement is relation between cause and effect, use of deductive method and inductive method for the formation of laws, C. Experiments, D. All of the above. So to categorize a subject as a science, it would definitely deal with experiments, it would have a method of study, and it would definitely deal with the cause and effect relationships. So definitely all are the features of economics as a science. So option D is the right answer. The 13th question. In economics, positive statements are about A. The way things ought to be, the way things are, B. C. First round effects, not second round effects, D. Second round effects, not first round effects. As discussed earlier, positive statements would state how things are, and normative statements would suggest measures like how things ought to be. Therefore, the right answer is B, the way things are. The 14th question. Production points inside the PPF are. So PPF refers to the production possibility frontier. A. Efficient but not attainable. B. Efficient and attainable. C. Inefficient and not attainable. D. Inefficient and attainable. Now, any points on the production possibility frontier are efficient and attainable. Any point above the production possibility frontier is efficient but not attainable, but any point inside the production possibility frontier is attainable but it is not efficient. Now, why is it if attainable? Because the point lies in between the production possibility curve. The production possibility curve denotes the maximum combination of two goods that can be produced with the given resources. Any point inside the production possibility frontier denotes that the resources are not used to the maximum. Therefore, any point inside the PPF is attainable. But why is it inefficient? Because the resources are not used efficiently. So the right answer would be they are inefficient and attainable. Option D will be the right answer. The 15th question. An increase in the nation's labor force will A. Shift the PPF outward. B. Cause a movement along the PPF up and to the left. C. Cause a movement along the PPF down and to the right. D. Move the nation from producing within the PPF to producing at a point closer to the PPF. Now, the PPF represents at a particular point of time the maximum use of resources that can yield the maximum combinations of goods that can be produced inside an economy. So, when the labor force is increasing, it means that the nation's human resources are increasing. When the resources are increasing, the PPF will shift outward. So, a new PPF curve greater than the current PPF would be evolved. Therefore, the right answer is shift the PPF outward. The 16th question. After Hurricane Andrew devastated part of South Florida in August 1992, we can be reasonably sure that the production possibility frontier for that area temporarily A. Shifted in towards the origin, shifted out away from the origin, became flatter, became steeper. Now, a devastation of a particular place would mean that most of the resources are eaten out or they are lost. So, the extent of resources would reduce in size. Therefore, reduction in the extent of resources would be able to produce only smaller combinations of goods. Therefore, the PPF would shift inward towards the origin. So the right answer is option A, shifted in toward the origin. The 17th question. When the production possibility frontier bows outward from the origin. Okay. Now, what is bowing outward from the origin? So, if a PPF is bowing inward, it would be caving inside. The caving part of PPF, it is because of the increasing opportunity cost of production. In other words, if a nation is producing more of commodity Y and lesser of commodity X, and if it wants to increase more of commodity X, it has to reduce the production of commodity Y. But it may be noted that as the nation produces more and more units of commodity X, the sacrifice of commodity Y goes on increasing. In other words, the opportunity cost is increasing. So, the concave shape of the PPF is because of increasing opportunity cost. But here the question is talking about an outward bow of the frontier, or it is convex in shape, which means the opportunity cost is decreasing. So, as long as the production possibility frontier is concave, the opportunity cost would be increasing. But if it is convex to the origin, the opportunity cost will be decreasing. So, the right answer is the opportunity costs are increasing. The 18th question. The question, should movies or compact discs be produced, is an example of the A. How question, B. Who question, C. Where question, D. What question. Now, analyzing the question, should movies or compact disc be produced? So, it is a question of what to be produced, whether it is more of movies or compact discs. So, it is addressing to the question of what question, and it is option D. The 19th question. When China builds a dam using few machines and a great deal of labor, it is answering the dash question. So you will notice here we are discussing an issue of how much of labor and capital China is using to build the dam. So labor and capital are actually talking about the technology of production, or in other words, how a good should be produced or how a dam is to be built. So this question is actually answering how, the how question. Therefore, the answer is option A, how. The 20th question. The fact that people with higher incomes get to consume more goods and services addresses the dash question. A. How, B. Where, C. For whom, D. When. So, people with higher income, they tend to consume more goods and services. So, it is addressing the question of for whom to produce, because the questions of how to produce, what to produce are production oriented concepts, but the question of for whom to produce depends on other factors like the income of consumers, the taste and preference of consumers. So it is addressing to the for whom question. So option C is the right answer. The 21st question. Which of the following is a positive statement? A. 10% increase in income leads to a 4% decrease in the consumption of beef. B. My economics class should last for 2 terms because it is my favorite class. C. Given their negative impact on productivity, the government should eliminate labor unions. D. Taxes should be lower because then people get to keep more of what they earn, so they will work more. A positive statement would not give suggestive measures. So B, C, and D are using terms like should, what ought to be done, but only A is sharing a fact and describes how things are. So the right answer is option A because it's a positive statement. B, C, and D are normative statements. The 22nd question. Normative statements are statements about A. What ought to be, B. Quantities, C. What is, D. Prices. Normative statements always use or give suggestions about how things ought to be. So, the right answer is option A, what ought to be. The 23rd question. The fact that wants cannot be fully satisfied with available resources reflects the definition of A. Scarcity, B. The big trade off, C. The what trade off, D. For whom to produce. So, scarcity of resources in order to satisfy the human wants, it definitely reflects the definition of scarcity. So, how scarce resources are used to satisfy unlimited human wants. So, the right answer is option A, scarcity. 24th question. The task of economic science is to A. Tell us what is good for us, help us understand how the economic world works, C. Make moral choices about things like drugs, D. Save the earth from the overuse of natural resources. So, economics is a science as well as an art. Economics as a science would deal with experiments, cause and effect relationships, and how things are working. But economics as an art would give us suggestions like what is good, what is bad. It will talk about choices, and it will talk about how things would go on or it should go on. And here you will notice only option B prescribes economics as a science because it helps us to understand how the economic world works. So, for example, how consumers would react for a particular situation, how producers would change their production policies based on changing market situations, and so on. Option A, C, and D describes economics more as an art. So the right answer is option B. The 25th question. An inductive theory is one that A. Involves testing an explicitly defined hypothesis, does not allow for findings to feed back into the stock of knowledge, uses quantitative methods whenever possible, allows theory to emerge out of the data. Now, what is an inductive theory and how does it contrast itself from deductive theory? An inductive theory moves from particular to general, or from microeconomic analysis to macroeconomic applications. So, it would not allow, it would actually, it will use more of quantitative methods because a small sample would be chosen, inferences would be drawn about that particular sample, and it would be applied to the entire population. It would use lot of quantitative methods to study about the sample under consideration. So the right answer is option C, uses quantitative methods whenever possible. The 26th question. human wants are A. Always fixed, B. Limited, C. Unlimited, D. Likely to decrease over time. So human wants have special characteristics, like they're always unlimited in nature, because if one want gets satisfied, we another want crops up. A person who's using a cycle wants a bike. A person, once he gets the bike, he wants a car. So his wants are unlimited, and the same want recurs again and again. So you feel hungry in the morning, you take food, you get satisfied. Again, you feel hungry, might be in the late evening or the next day. So human wants are unlimited, and that is an important issue in economics. So how to use scarce resources to meet the unlimited human wants which are growing. So option C, unlimited, is the right answer. 27th question. Points on the production possibilities frontier are A. Inefficient, B. Normative, C. Unattainable, D. Efficient. All the points on the production possibility frontier are efficient. Now, why they are efficient? Because it is the maximum that the economy can produce with its available resources. So, any point on the PPF represents efficient use of resources. But when is any point inefficient? If there is any point which falls within or inside the PPF, those points are inefficient. Any points which are outside the PPF, they are unattainable. Why are they unattainable? Because it is not possible to produce these points which is lying above the PPF with the limited resources under consideration. So the right answer is they are efficient. Option D. The 28th question. Macroeconomics deals with A. Economic aggregates, B. The behavior of electronics industry, C. Activities of individual units, D. Behavior of firms. Macroeconomics always deals with large aggregates, whereas microeconomics always deals with individual consumer, firm or industry. So, option B, the behavior of electronics industry, is related to a particular industry, therefore falls under the sphere of microeconomics. Option C, the activities of individual units, again falls under microeconomics. Option D, behavior of firms, also fall under microeconomics. Therefore, the right answer is the macroeconomics deals with economic aggregates, and that is option A. The 29th question. Suppose that the following headlines appeared in a newspaper. Which would most clearly represent a macroeconomic issue? A. Central bank raises interest rates. B. Auto dealership to cut prices. C. Fannies freeze dried prunes to lay off 50 workers. D. United Workers Union to strike April 15th. So option B, C and D are related to individual firms. So is related to auto dealership alone, Fanny Freeze dried prunes alone, and United Workers Union alone. So these three are microeconomic in nature, but option A, central bank raises interest rates, is macroeconomic in nature because it is applicable for the entire economy and not to a particular industry or a firm. The 30th question: if an economy's production possibilities frontier shifted to the right, this would illustrate A. Recession, B. A fall in resource utilization, C. Economic growth, D. A rise in resource utilization. So, when would a production frontier shift outward? When there is a recession, the total goods that are produced would be smaller than the current level. Therefore, the PPF should shift inward. A fall in resource utilization would again reduce the total quantities of goods that are produced. Therefore, the PPF will shift inward. A rise in resource utilization will always bring it to the any point along the PPF, because any point along the PPF is the maximum that the resources can be utilized. Therefore, the right answer is economic growth. The overall goods and services have increased in the economy. 31st question: in a free market system, the amount of goods and services that any one household gets depends upon its A. Wealth, B. Wage and interest income, C. Income and wealth, D. Income. So you'll notice in a market economy, the consumption of goods and services depends greatly upon their income and wealth. So the wage, interest are all part of income. And why is it a combination of income and wealth? Accumulated income forms wealth. So the past savings in the form of money saved or in the form of property or in the form of any fixed asset is considered as wealth. So the goods and services claimed by each household will depend on their current income and the wealth which they have accumulated over the past. So the right answer is option C, income and wealth. The 32nd question: in a command economy, all the economic decisions are taken by the consumers, government, voters, workers. So, command economy is a socialistic economy where all economic decisions of what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce is decided by the government. So, the consumers do not have any choice over what type of goods they have to consume, and the workers do not have the right to decide what type of goods should be produced, and the voters do not have the right to decide how the produced goods are to be distributed among the various groups. Therefore, the government plays a key role in making all economic decisions in a command economy. So the right answer is option B, government. The 33rd question: all of the following are true in a communist society except. So we have to identify from the options which does not apply to a communist economy. A. The government chooses what will be produced. It is definitely a feature of communist economy. B. The means of production are owned by the government. Again, it is a feature of communist economy. C. The government decides who will produce the goods. Again, it is a feature of communist economy. What to produce, how to produce, and who will produce are all decided by the government. So D. Consumers have wide choice of goods and services is the right answer. Now, why is this a right answer? Why do consumers do not have wide choice of goods and services? Because what goods to be produced is decided by the government. So, goods which are of utmost necessity alone are produced by the government. Therefore, limited goods or limited varieties of goods will be available in the market. So, the consumer will not be in a position to choose among different goods his choice of goods that he wants to consume. Therefore, option D is the right answer. 34th question. Economics is an art rather than a hard science like physics because A. Economists abstract from reality when creating their theories. B. Economics is easier to study than physics. C. Economists must explain their theories to policymakers who lack formal mathematical training. D. Economics studies human behavior which is affected by an unpredictable and vast range of influences. Now, why is economics is not considered as a hard science like physics? If you take any science and any kind of uh, instrument, scientific instrument, under various circumstances and under controlled environment, they will yield the same results. But in economics, we are not dealing with physical apparatus or chemical compounds, we are dealing with human beings. So, physical apparatus and chemical compounds in the same environment react in the same manner, but human beings in the same situation but different time period, they react in a different manner. Therefore, their behavior is highly unpredictable. So, when you're studying a subject under a situation of unpredictability, then it does not become a hard science. So, the right answer is option D. Economists study human behavior which is affected by an unpredictable and vast range of influences. The 35th question. The what question primarily refers to A. The set of goods and services that are produced. B. Production efficiency. C. Whether the goods are produced under a communist system or democratic system. D. Who gets what? The what question is actually talking about what goods are to be produced, what goods and services are to be produced. Therefore, option A, the set of goods and services that are produced, is the right answer. The 36th question, which is not a basic economic question that societies must answer. A. What goods and services are to be produced? B. How are the goods and services to be produced? C. Why are these goods and services being produced? D. For whom are the goods and services being produced? So, the three basic questions related to any economy, the central problem of any economy is what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, which is listed in option A, B, and D. Whereas option C, why are these goods and services being produced, is not an economic question. Therefore, option C is the right answer. The 37th question, which of the following is a distinguishing feature of capitalism? A. Use of capital goods. B. Use of money. C. private ownership of the means of production, D. Specialization. Now, a distinguishing feature. Now, might be we get confused with all other three options, but now I shall tell you why we need not get confused with other three options. Now, capital goods will be used by any kind of a society, whether it is a capitalistic society, a socialistic society, or a mixed economy. All economies definitely cannot produce without the use of capital goods, like machinery. Now, use of money. To produce in any economy, money is indispensable. So, it is common for all types of setups, societies. Now, specialization. Any kind of large scale production or division of labor will definitely lead to specialization in the long run, irrespective of the system of society that is existing. Therefore, private ownership of means of production is a salient feature of capitalism in comparison with a socialistic system where there is no provision for private ownership, everything is held by the government. So, the right answer is option C, private ownership of means of production. The 38th question, growth concept of economics was presented by A. Adam Smith, B. Marshall, C. Robinson, D. Samuelson. Now, Adam Smith had given the wealth definition, Marshall had given the welfare definition, Robinson has given the scarcity definition. So, the growth definition was given by Samuelson, which is option D. The 39th question, under deductive method, the logic proceeds from. So, the two methods of study under economics include deductive method and inductive method. Deductive method moves from larger to minor or general to particular, whereas an inductive method moves from particular to general or from minor to larger. Therefore, the right answer is option A, general to particular. Okay. Question 40. The welfare definition was given by A. Robbins, B. Alfred Marshall, C. Pigot, D. Adam Smith. So, as discussed earlier, the welfare definition was given by Alfred Marshall. He gave the welfare definition after criticizing the wealth definition of Adam Smith. So, he included the concept of welfare into the definition of economics, and the right answer is option B, Alfred Marshall. The 41st question, the graph above shows the production possibility curves for an economy producing two goods X and Y. Which of the following points on the graph indicate unemployed resources? Now, all points on the production possibility curve A, C and B, C are all efficient and they show optimum use of resources. Point D is not attainable with the given set of resources. Therefore, it is not possible to go to point D with current level of resources. You will notice that point A denotes that only g- good Y is being produced. So again, it is not, production possibility curve has combinations of goods. Therefore, the point which is which uses lesser resources is only point E. The 42nd question, the production possibilities curve moves outward from the origin because the opportunity cost increase as the production of a good increases. So we have already discussed this in detail earlier. Now, as you want to increase the production of one good, you have to sacrifice the production of other good. So, the sacrifice of one good for the other would go on decreasing in case of inward slow bowing PPF. But on the contrary, an outward sloping PPF denotes that the opportunity cost goes on increasing. So the right answer is option B, opportunity cost increase as the production of a good increases. The 43rd question, when a state government chooses to build more roads, the required resources are no longer available for spending on public education. This dilemma illustrates the concept of marginal analysis, full employment, full production, opportunity cost. Now you will see that the government has a dilemma whether to use the money to build road or to spend it for public education. If it uses this money for building roads, the money will be no more available for education. On the other hand, if the money is used for education, it will not be available for building roads. So it is either building roads or public education. When one option is chosen, the other is sacrificed. Therefore, this dilemma illustrates the concept of opportunity cost. And the option is option D. The 44th question, the question of how to produce is addressing to the technology of production, the time of production, the geographical zone of production, none of the above. The question of how to produce will actually address to what technique of production to be used, or in other words, how to produce the goods by using what technology, whether it is going to use more of capital and less of labor, or less of capital and more of labor. So it basically addresses to the technology of production. So the right answer is option A, the technology of production. The 45th question, the question of for whom to produce is solved by the consumption capacity of consumers, the production capacity of producers, the income capacity of consumers, the taxation capacity of the government. Now, as discussed earlier, out of the three questions, what to produce, how to produce, for whom to produce, what to produce and how to produce is a production related concept, and it is addressed by the producer. But the question of for whom to produce depends upon the taste and preference of the consumer, their income level, and many other factors. Now, this question, it could be solved by the income capacity of consumers, because no economy will produce more for consumers who are consuming more. Producers would not produce just because they have more capacity to produce. Government would not tax more just because it can tax the people. So the right answer is option C, the income capacity of consumers. The 46th question. In a mixed economy, there is single price system, constant price system, dual price system, none of the above. Now, a mixed economy is a combination of a socialistic economy and a capitalistic economy. In a socialistic economy, the prices are fixed by the government. In a capitalistic economy, the prices are fixed by forces of demand and supply. But in a mixed economy, you will notice that a dual price system exists because on one hand, government will fix prices for basic necessity goods that are indispensable at a rate which is fixed by the government, which will be an administered price, like what goods we get through the ration shops. On the other hand, the same goods will be available through the market at a competitive price, and the price will be determined by the market forces of demand and supply. Therefore, a mixed economy always has dual price system, and therefore the right answer is option C, dual price system. 47th question. Which is not a feature of economics as an art? So A, practical, B, practice of knowledge, C, system of rules, D, capable of measurement. Now, as an art, economics is definitely practical. It practices knowledge. It has a set of rules. Like how we say, how consumers, this is in general, consumers behave when price increases. So it does follow a system of rules. But the concept of measuring the concepts related to economics is not possible. Now, why is economics not capable of measuring? Because it is an art. As an art, it is not a it cannot be measured. Now, why is it so? Because mostly we use money as a measuring scale to measure economic concepts. For example, consumption, how much you consume, it is measured using monetary term. How much you're willing to pay, it is measured using monetary term. How much is your utility, it is also measured using money, your willingness to pay. Therefore, money is used as a measuring rod, and money as such does not have a fixed measuring scale. So, 100 rupees was worth 1 lakh rupees 20 years ago. 100 rupees will be worth only 10 rupees 10 years later. So, the same 100 rupees carries different values at different point of time. In other words, value of money goes on decreasing. Therefore, when money is used as a measuring rod, it is not possible to measure accurately the concepts related to economics. Therefore, it is an art, and the option is capable of measurement. The 48th question. The growth definition of economics takes into consideration dash and dash consumption. So, the wealth definition was given by Adam Smith, the welfare definition was given by Alfred Marshall, and the scarcity definition was given by Robinson. But as a improved version, we had the growth definition as given by Samuelson, who took into account future growth into consideration. Or in other words, he did not talk about how scarce resources are going to be used for consumption of current period alone. He moved one step further to include how the current resources have to be divided or allotted between the present and future generation, so that any development that we experience now can sustain in future also. If we fail to preserve some resources for a future generation, whatever efforts we donate in order to increase the development of a country, it would be lost in the future. Or in other words, further development will not be possible in future because of utter scarcity of resources. So he brought in the concept of sharing the scarce resources between present and future consumption. So the right answer is option C, present and future consumption. The 49th question. The question of what to produce is solved in a capitalist economy with the help of government intervention, price mechanism, level of income, both A and B. That is government intervention and price mechanism. Now, government intervenes with regard to what goods are to be produced in case of a socialistic economy and not capitalistic economy. The level of income would decide for whom the goods are to be produced, and it is not a question related to what to produce. Both A and B, government intervention and price mechanism, is a feature of mixed economy where government decides what to produce based on its own policies, and private people decide what to produce based on price mechanism. The right answer is option B, price mechanism. Now, what is price mechanism? How is it related to the question of what to produce? If a businessman wants to start a business and produce goods, he'll be in a dilemma what good he has to produce so that he can earn more profits in the by producing and selling them in the market. Now, in a price mechanism, you will notice that the operation of demand and supply forces will determine a price. And now, when a good is of great demand in the market, its demand will be greater than the supply, and therefore the prices will shoot up in the market for this particular commodity whose demand is very high. So, producers will look out for highly priced goods in the market. So, they will start producing those goods which can be sold for highest price in the market. Therefore, price mechanism is used to solve the question of what to produce in a capitalistic economy. The 50th question. The negative slope of the production possibilities frontier represents the idea A, that free lunches are possible, B, of trade-offs, that in order to produce more of one good, you must produce less of another, C, of unemployment, D, of inefficient production. Now, option A, that lunches are freely available, shows improper usage of resources. So, it is not related to the downward slope of production possibility curve, and the case of unemployment of resources or inefficient production, they are not addressing to the negative slope of production possibility curve. Rather, they all together indicate inefficient use of resources, that is any point inside the production possibility curve. Now, coming to option B, a trade-off. If one good has to be produced more, the other good has to be produced less. Now, the available set of resources at a particular point of time are limited. So, if you want to produce more of one good with the available resources, you can do so only by reducing the production of another good. So when one good increases in production, the other good reduces in production in terms of quantities. Therefore, this feature of trade-off is responsible for the negative slope of the production possibility frontier. So the right answer is option B. It is because of the trade-off. The review session for chapter 1 comes to an end here. I hope that this testing and my explanations was of great help for you. And in case of any queries, please mail us to queries@greymatteracademics.com. Thank you. Have a nice day.